tonight, the victim of a possible kidnapping in Brampton has been found.
She has been located, but she did walk into the 22 division herself.
But the alleged kidnapper is still at large and considered armed and dangerous. We'll have the latest from Peel Police. Plus,
right now in Ontario, the pandemic is completely out of control.
troubling new data from Ontario's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table that has the team of experts calling for another province-wide lockdown. And
it's not a big deal. It's just a little jab.
Toronto is ramping up mass vaccinations with the opening of 2 more clinics, this coming the same day the province suspends use of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We start tonight in Brampton, where police say the 23-year-old woman who was the victim of a possible kidnapping has been found safe, but the suspect is still at large.
She walked into the police station located at 22 Division in Brampton. She was by herself. She has, and she appeared to be in good health. So at this particular time, Kwame Garwood is still at large. He is still outstanding, and we are continuing to search for him.
Selena Ook was kidnapped in the middle of the night from a home on Adventura Road early Sunday morning. Neighbors said they heard banging and yelling outside, and cell phone video captured the moment. Police fired several shots at a suspect in a black Honda Civic. Police believe the suspect to be 21-year-old Kwame Garwood. He is currently wanted on 4 outstanding warrants, one of them for first-degree murder. Investigators don't have any information on Garwood's whereabouts, but they are looking to speak to the driver of this orange Kia that was in the area during the time of the incident. Police say Ook appeared to be in good health, but was taken to hospital to be treated for something unrelated to her alleged abduction. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. To the pandemic now and some troubling new data. The latest numbers from Ontario's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table show a province at a crisis point. Published tonight, the analysis shows new daily infections have reached the heights of the second wave, with hospitalizations spiking far beyond where they were at the start of the last lockdown. But as Lauren Pelly reports, the province's only promise so far is more hospital capacity for those falling sick.
As people dine and shop and mingle throughout the province, leading medical experts warn most of us might not realize just how much COVID is silently spreading and claiming lives.
Right now in Ontario, the pandemic is completely out of control.
The latest number crunching from Ontario's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table found more deadly variants are circulating widely, and new daily infections have reached the heights of the second wave. The table's new briefing note also shows the number of people hospitalized with COVID-19 is now more than 20% higher than at the start of the last province-wide lockdown in December, while ICU occupancy is close to 30% higher.
Is no such thing as winning this race just with vaccinations. That's impossible.
Ontario has been vaccinating tens of thousands each day. Deaths in long-term care have already plummeted, but millions of younger adults remain vulnerable.
There are a lot of susceptible individuals, and as the brief also highlights, the number of individuals who are of younger or middle age that are now ending up in our ICUs and our hospitals with COVID-19 is far greater than it was.
To prevent more life-changing infections and deaths, the team is now calling for a province-wide lockdown in hopes of buying time to vaccinate more Ontarians.
Ontario's hospitals have faced extraordinary challenges.
There's no word from provincial officials on whether a lockdown is in the cards, but in a statement sent to CBC Toronto, the Ministry of Health stressed this province is boosting hospital capacity, including COVID-19 field hospitals like this one at Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre in Toronto. Others warn that's not preventing people from falling sick in the first place.
We are repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again,
leaving Ontarians facing a year-long pandemic that may get tougher again before it gets easier. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
I'm hearing from colleagues at Toronto hospitals that increasingly admissions are of younger people and often directly to the ICU.
Toronto's Chief Medical Officer of Health at the city's COVID-19 briefing this afternoon, saying that young people make up 1 in 3 new cases in Toronto. She is stressing the need for people to limit in-person gatherings, especially as many in Toronto are marking Passover and Easter this weekend. And a major development today concerning the AstraZeneca vaccine. Ontario is pausing use of the vaccine for those under the age of 55, following a recommendation from Canada's Vaccine Advisory Committee. The recommendation comes after reports out of Europe of blood clots in younger people, particularly women. Now, meanwhile, Toronto is ramping up mass vaccinations. 2 more clinics opened today with the age of eligibility lowered to 70. Still, slots aren't getting filled up as hoped. Talia Ricci reports.
2 new mass vaccination sites at Malvern Community Recreation Centre and Mitchellfield Arena opened today.
It's wonderful. There's lots of space and it's well marked, and there are more helpers than you can shake a stick at.
It's not a big deal, it's just a little jab.
Officials want to see these spaces chock full of seniors.
I encourage everyone, 70 plus, please sign up. Please go out and get your vaccines.
A plea that followed Toronto Mayor John Tory's. The city's eligible age was moved down to 70 in hopes of seeing more seniors signing up.
We are studying it, yes. There is some degree of vaccine hesitancy that we are trying to overcome, particularly with respect to AstraZeneca.
Canada's National Advisory Committee on Immunization is recommending provinces pause the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine on those under the age of 55. Ontario has been offering it to people over the age of 60. The health minister says she got the AstraZeneca shot today to show people that it's safe for the recommended age group.
Thank you. My arm was a little sore.
Dr. Alan Bernstein got the AstraZeneca shot too. He's a member of Canada's COVID-19 vaccine task force and advises against vaccine shopping.
We have the best real-world evidence with the AstraZeneca vaccine. So if you look at the numbers of the number of cases and number of deaths, number of hospitalizations in the UK, it's a downward curve. And that's largely, not entirely, but largely due to the AstraZeneca vaccine.
But Dr. Anju Anand understands that people are apprehensive and is trying to learn why. It's why she helped launch the South Asian COVID-19 task force and will soon be part of a national campaign.
Vaccine hesitancy is real. And so I think that a larger campaign sort of addresses that universal need and the universal questions and fears, and then you sort of address them specifically within each community.
The vaccines are way safer than COVID-19.
And in Toronto, the city says more people are signing up, but there are still more than 7,000 first dose appointments available this week. Both doctors and politicians reminding people again today, the sooner everyone's vaccinated, the sooner the economy can reopen. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
3 COVID-19 vaccination clinics in York Region will temporarily close at the end of the week due to a lack of vaccine supply. The clinics include the Awneen Community Centre in Markham, Georgina Ice Palace, and the drive-through clinic at Canada's Wonderland that just opened this morning. These 3 locations will be closed from Friday, April the 2nd to Monday, April the 5th due to delays in Moderna shipments. But they are expected to reopen as more vaccine deliveries arrive next week. Well, the postponed March break is supposed to be in 2 weeks for the province's 2 million kids in school. But now with COVID-19 cases rising sharply, the Ford government is not ruling out another delay. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the story.
Students are now at the midway point between the resumption of school in January and the end of the school year in June. Their March break was postponed once already. The rationale? That having Ontario's 2 million students on holiday could make the pandemic worse.
We recognize that congregation is a key driver of the spread of COVID-19, something we realized over the winter break, and we will not take that risk again.
With that logic, and with Ontario firmly in the grip of a third wave that is rising every day, will the province go ahead with the rescheduled school break just 2 weeks from now?
We're continuing to work with the Chief Medical Officer of Health to make sure that the April break is safe, that students and their parents continue to follow the rules as overwhelmingly they have.
However, the Premier is sounding far less certain that April break is a go.
To be very frank, I don't want to predict 2 weeks out. but we'll be out here every single day communicating with the people. I can't give you a direct answer right now.
Hey, how you doing? The government's uncertainty doesn't sit well with some parents.
They've done such a terrible job so far that I wouldn't be surprised if there's more terrible things that they're doing and adding more confusion and more frustration for schools and parents.
Hi, buddy. I think that the teachers need a break, in all honesty. I know my kids so happy to be back in school, but it would be really, really nice for the teachers to have some rest. It's been quite a school year for them.
Since school resumed in January, the number of new COVID cases among staff and students has grown every single week.
We see the numbers going up at a rapid speed right now. By the end of the week, we'll have a clear direction.
We're now building out a plan as we speak. We have for the past, over the past days, to make sure that when students return following the break, that there are stronger infection prevention protocols, enhanced screening, these types of things that could reduce any case from actually entering the school in the first place.
The government is promising to let parents know by the end of this week whether the delayed spring break will go ahead as scheduled starting April 12th. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The SIU has wrapped up its investigation into the police-involved death of Clive Mensah, saying officers acted lawfully. The 30-year-old who lived with a mental health condition died at his Mississauga home after police tasered and pepper sprayed him. Police were called to Mensah's neighborhood in November 2019 after multiple noise complaints. 3 officers ordered Mensah to the ground in his backyard, which he obeyed. But according to the SIU's report, he was tasered after he continued to move his arms. Mensah got up and advanced towards the officer, and a second taser was fired. When he fell face first to the ground, 2 officers tried to hold down his arms and another on his legs. But he was able to ward them off, and a third taser was used. Pepper spray was also used. Within the hour, Mensah was dead. The coroner's report lists his cause of death as undetermined. The SIU director wrote that the officers used significant force but acted lawfully.
When those go away, a lot of business owners are going to have a moment of reckoning.
Financial supports have been a lifeline for businesses during the pandemic. But what happens when they end? After the break, why fewer businesses have canceled their licenses this year than any other time in 2 decades. That's coming up next.
Well, the south to southwesterly winds are going to be kicking up tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. That means our temperatures are going to soar. I'll tell you what those numbers look like coming up after the break.
Welcome back. It's been a challenging year for businesses in Toronto, but new analysis by CBC News shows that despite the financial hardships created by the pandemic, the number of restaurants that canceled their business licenses in the past year is actually down. Farah Morali explains why.
The sun is out, and staff at Gio Rana's really nice restaurant are setting up their side patio, hoping to attract customers. Also known as The Nose, this restaurant has been an East End staple for decades, but this year has tested its ability to stay open.
Yeah, it's just been a roller coaster.
Marjorie Rana's parents started the restaurant the year she was born. Now the owner, she estimates business is down about 60%.
And for me, it's not only been my life, it's been my parents' life, their 40 years of hard work. So that's why, like I said before, when it's been a whirlwind of emotion.
It's a similar story for many restaurants, but CBC News has found that, despite the challenges, fewer eating establishments canceled their business licenses this past year than in years past. Here's what the numbers show. Since March 23rd, when restaurants were first ordered closed, nearly 1,200 business licenses have been canceled. The average number of cancellations per year over the past 2 decades is about 1,400. That means there are about 21% fewer cancellations of business licenses over the past year compared to the average.
Many business owners have not made a final call as to whether or not their business will be able to make it across the COVID finish line.
The CFIB says restaurants are likely choosing to keep their business licenses until they know for sure that they're closing, because it can be hard to get a new liquor license. It says the true indicator of how businesses are doing will only be known once the government subsidies are scaled back.
When those go away, a lot of business owners are going to have a moment of reckoning, and that's when we believe that there will be a lot of business closures.
It's a different story for other businesses. The number of canceled licenses for food trucks and limo services is up substantially. Same with licenses for driving schools. They can't operate in person under the gray zone.
I had to make a choice that either I keep my insurance or I, keep a roof on my head or put a foot on the table.
No matter how you slice it, the next few weeks will be telling for businesses like this that are hoping a third wave won't bring a third round of closures. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
And as we saw earlier, there is a push to get more seniors vaccinated in Toronto. Figures just out from Toronto Public Health show about 50% of the city's residents aged 75 and older have received their first dose. In an effort to increase that number, the city is trying to make it easier for some seniors to get a shot. Angelina King has the details.
Sure. How are you?
90-year-old Leone Scarpino has been bedridden since December. His daughter says they have no idea when he'll get his shot.
That every day that passes is one more day that my dad's put at risk. Our home is a mini long-term care home.
Her dad gets help from several outside healthcare workers, plus family. She'd like to see family doctors or a mobile nursing unit be able to vaccinate people at home.
It's as if they forgot about this group.
Toronto's mayor says there's an estimated 3,500 people in the city eligible for at-home vaccinations. He says they'll be doled out by at-home care staff and paramedics who got started on this last week.
Much as we might like to, we simply don't have the resources and the ability to do a max vaccination at home for those who can make it to a clinic.
But the city is working to make it easier for seniors to get to appointments. Today, launching a pilot program offering free rides to those who are 75 or older.
All the vaccines.
The Canadian Association of Retired Persons says it's a good idea, but it doesn't help those who worry about going to a mass clinic.
What at-risk senior wants to go where there are literally hundreds and hundreds of other people when they've been told for months they should stay away from large groups? They would rather go to their local pharmacy or their local doctor. That's not always possible.
Some pharmacies and doctors' offices are offering the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Let family doctors do what they do best, and that's reaching our most vulnerable patients and vaccinating them efficiently and equitably.
Toronto doctor Anna Holland has vaccinated seniors at a retirement home. She wants to be able to do the same for patients at her clinic or their homes when she visits.
Being vaccinated in a familiar environment by a familiar healthcare provider is something of value.
Toronto's top doctor says logistically, the vaccines available now are too difficult to handle and store.
They're not quite as simple as administering flu vaccines, which is what we're used to seeing.
Okay. For Scarpino and his family, another day came and went without word of a vaccine.
We just one thing, just one little thing, that little ray of hope. That's all we want, just that little ray of hope.
Hope in the form of some protection against the virus. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Mainly clear with some cloudy periods tonight, remaining mostly clear overnight. Currently 3 degrees downtown. Let's go now to meteorologist Colette Kennedy with a look at the forecast. And Colette, nice to see some sun out today after a pretty rainy and blustery Sunday.
Yeah, it is nice, and it's such a contrast, right? And, you know, we've been talking about this so much in the month of March, but just kind of a reminder, we are into spring, and really spring is one of these seasons with a lot of ups and downs. So if you're ready, we're headed up again in terms of our temperatures. Tuesday is going to be kind of an anomaly for this week. So what's happening is quiet conditions overnight tonight, no active weather, and not through the day on Tuesday either, although the winds will become quite strong from the south-southwest. That's going to push our temperature up way above seasonal, so a very mild day for tomorrow. Then the cold sector of the system will start to pass through as we get into Wednesday, and we'll see some rain starting early Wednesday morning and kind of continuing for the first part of the day. And then as colder air comes in on the backside of that system, a chance to even get into some wet flurries mixing in there. So yeah, a lot of ups and downs, right? The daytime highs from today, a little bit closer to seasonal in terms of what we were seeing there. And then tomorrow we're going to add about 10 degrees on top of those numbers. So it does become very mild. The winds kick up more towards the afternoon. So after kind of the lunch hour when they really get blustery for the GTA. Before that, however, we'll be seeing some strong winds to the northwest in the lee of Lake Huron back towards southwestern Ontario as well. So that's going to start earlier in the day. If you kind of jumped ahead of the game and put out your patio furniture, that kind of thing, you want to maybe check the cushions are going to be secure, okay? And then the rain will be coming in. So this is going into Wednesday early morning, southwestern Ontario. You see the mix up towards Georgian Bay. Some heavier rains to start the day. It will be a slower commute for Wednesday, and then a little bit of moisture left over, and that's why we'll probably see a break in the afternoon and then getting into some wet flurries a little bit later. But just having a look at how those winds, especially when you see these blues and purples, those are some of the stronger winds we'll see with the passing of the front as it's coming through. So that's more tomorrow and then early Wednesday, and then they begin to die off once again as we get that system past us. Your temperatures tonight look like this for southwestern Ontario, 5 degrees for Windsor, and how about 20 degrees for your Tuesday afternoon around the GTA? Yes, close to freezing or just below there into Markham, and then highs tomorrow from 15 because of the southwesterly flow, a little cooler Oshawa, and anywhere you're near the lake, and St. Catharines up to at least 18. Could see even warmer than that, and just looking ahead. So 6 degrees of cool down, but look at Wednesday night into Thursday. It gives you an idea, Kelda, why we might see a few wet flurries in there possibly.
Thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
The TSO is trying to bridge the gap for older adults who may need the company of music during the pandemic. How they're doing it after the break. Before we go, the Toronto Symphony Orchestra is partnering up with the YMCA to bring those who feel isolated the gift of music.
And I'm grateful to have music. I'm grateful to have the flute. You can probably see that I was a YMCA member because I needed to be to do this.
The TSO has performed more than 100 of these virtual concerts for seniors this past year. The goal is to help reduce the feeling of isolation through music. Participants can listen to a half-hour concert and ask any questions they like. The virtual interactive sessions run weekly as part of a YMCA program called The Bright Spot. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.